Hey beauty, it's Ker-leen. Thank you for tuning back into my channel. As promised, y'all, I am back with a comparison video on Silky Woods and Silky Woods Elixir. So if you're interested in hearing my thoughts, then please keep watching. Hey friend, welcome back. We're in 2024, y'all. I want to wish you a very happy 2024. Happy New Year to you, to your family, to your loved ones. I'm so happy to be here with you in this new year, and I'm praying for you. I'm praying for amazing things to happen for you this year. I'm so excited about what this journey will hold for us this year as you're tuned in to my channel and I continue to create content for you. And to those of you who are new over here on this channel, I make videos on lifestyle, luxury. I do review videos to include fragrance reviews, and I also sprinkle in a little bit of my motherhood journey and my personal life in my monthly vlogs. So if any of those things sound interesting to you, then go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and also be sure to turn on that notification bell so you know exactly when my videos drop. All right, let's get into it. Okay, y'all, so I was able to get my hands on the original Silky Woods in travel size form, and I'm so glad I did. And if you'll stay tuned, you'll hear why I'm glad that I only picked this up in the travel size. So this is my travel size right here. So I have the travel size right here. I also have my phone. I'm gonna look up the notes, but before I get into the notes for the fragrances, what I want to do is I want to tell you what I smell, and then we'll do a comparison of the notes. I'll probably put like a side-by-side of the notes on the screen for you as well, so that as I'm sort of sharing my thoughts, you can see the notes side by side. So let's go ahead and pull up, I think I'm gonna pull up Fragrantica because I feel like the website and Fragrantica were pretty consistent with one another. Here is my full-size bottle of Silky Woods Elixir, and y'all, I have been testing this out. I've been testing the two of these out. We have been in the lab. It's been a full-on comparison. I've been studying, and I think I'm ready to share my thoughts. I feel like I have so many thoughts that I hope I can articulate what the differences are between these two fragrances. So yeah, let's get into it. I'm first gonna spray Silky Woods on one arm and Silky Woods Elixir on the other arm. So the original Silky Woods will go on this arm, my right arm, and Silky Woods Elixir will go on my left arm, your right, as you're watching this. So I'm just gonna go ahead and spray it on this arm. Okay, so a good amount on there. We're gonna let that dry. Okay, so with Silky Woods, y'all, I honestly feel like they took the original Silky Woods and they used it as a foundation. Kind of like when you're building a house, you have to have a strong foundation. Silky Woods, the original, is the strong foundation. But then with the new one, what they did was they built on top of it. So they added on. So I feel like they're two distinct fragrances that share the same DNA. So you can definitely smell a lot of similarities between the two. So the similarities and what I feel are like the foundational notes are the vanilla and the saffron are the foundational notes. So what I smell when I first sprayed this is a very light saffron with a subtle vanilla, and that's what I smell when I first spray this. The cinnamon that they say is in Silky Woods, I feel like it's in the background. It's not a very pronounced cinnamon. I have a few cinnamon fragrances that I've recently added to my collection. The cinnamon is so potent and so powerful, but the cinnamon in Silky Woods is very subdued in that opening. And then I start to pick up on a very, very light, suede-y, leathery note, which that's one of the notes in the mid. This is a very light, vanillic, saffron infused fragrance with a subtle leathery texture, but nothing crazy. I feel like with this fragrance, if you are new to niche fragrances, this would be a great introductory fragrance to the notes saffron and suede or leather. I feel like those notes are done so subtly. They're blended to perfection in here, but this is so much lighter, so much lighter in comparison to Elixir. So for me, this is a vanillic saffron concoction with a leathery undertone, a super soft, beautiful fragrance. And honestly, when I first heard of this fragrance and heard the notes that were in here, I assumed it would be super thick and dense, and I have been spraying and spraying and spraying this, and to me this is not as heavy or dense as I had heard as I watched other reviews, or as I would have expected by simply looking at the note breakdown. This is beautiful. It's a beautiful vanilla. Honestly, I feel like this vanilla would be best in the springtime. You can even wear this in the summer. I initially didn't think you could, but now that I've experienced it for myself, I feel like this is a beautiful spring fragrance when it's still kind of cool. There's still a little coolness in the air. And then even in the summertime, not in like the middle of summer or the end of summer where it's just sticky hot, but sort of in the beginning of summer, you could probably get away with this. So let's look at the notes for Silky Woods. So at the top of Silky Woods, you get saffron, Ceylon cinnamon. At the mid, you get suede and agar wood or oud. And then you get Madagascar, ylang ylang, and jasmine. I honestly don't pick up any jasmine in this, and the ylang ylang is very subdued. But right now what I'm starting to get is more of that vanilla. There's also a tobacco. So at the base you have vanilla, Tahitian vanilla, Australian sandalwood, tobacco leaf, musk, and olabanum. The olabanum I thought would make this a very dense and rich fragrance, or at least the base of this would be very dense and rich. But again, at the base, I feel like I'm getting the vanilla, I'm getting the musk, I'm getting a little bit of the tobacco leaf, but nothing crazy. So if you are curious about the notes saffron, oud, tobacco, even olabanum, this is a great introductory fragrance because it's done so subtly, so softly, in such a sophisticated way, and it's blended to perfection. So I think this is a beautiful fragrance. Very, very nice introductory niche fragrance. That reminds me of the other fragrance I have from this house, Sunset Hour. Sunset Hour is a beautiful introductory niche fragrance because that one is more mass appealing, and I feel like this one is like a step up from that. So the performance on this one, for me, after a couple of hours, I could barely smell it on skin and on my clothes. I've been testing this for like a few days now, and honestly, the performance is just okay. So now I can see why people complain about the performance of this. I think this is a fragrance that wears closer to the skin after about a couple of hours. People would have to sniff you very close up to smell this after like a couple of hours. Now, if you overspray with this, I could see it projecting a little bit, but it's not a big projector. It's very soft, very subdued, wears closer to the skin after a couple of hours. And that's really surprising to me because I expected this to be like a bold fragrance, but it's really not, and especially not compared to ELIXIR. This is a very unisex fragrance, but leaning feminine because of how soft and almost powdery it is. I feel like the musk is a powdery musk because it really does get a little powdery on the dry down, on the skin especially. So yeah, it's beautiful. It's rich, but it's rich in a soft, sort of airy way. And even the olabanum and the tobacco that are at the base, although the base has a sandalwood and a vanilla, it's not overly creamy. It's very subtle. It's the best word to describe this fragrance. It's sophisticated and subtle. So those are my thoughts on the original. So now for my thoughts on Silky Woods ELIXIR. Let's spray Silky Woods on this arm. You don't need a lot of this, so I've oversprayed just now. This is beastie. It's beastie. It's bold. It's in your face. Oh yeah. So we're gonna fan this off a little bit. With this one, I get something very earthy, green, very green, almost nutty, and that is the fig. But it's an underripe fig, and I think that's where the nuttiness is coming from because there are no nutty notes in the beginning of this. Yeah, so this is very earthy, very bold and dense, rich, almost dark in the opening. In the opening, this translates a lot more masculine leaning. This opens up very bold and very rich and deep. And the earthy facets, the green facets, I think it has moss. It has something called chypriol oil, another green note. It has a lot of green notes in the beginning. I feel like those notes lend to a more masculine profile. But what's interesting about this fragrance is the masculine opening dwindles and it starts to get more and more unisex as the fragrance wears on the skin. So this one takes you on a journey, y'all. It really takes you on a journey. the sweetness is starting to come through. So now I'm starting to pick up on the buttery orris, and I'm starting to pick up on the vanilla and the saffron. I feel like the saffron really shines when you get towards the initial dry down into the mid of this fragrance. This fragrance, after about 20 minutes or so, you are enjoying a beautiful vanillic fragrance with saffron, some woody touches, and some green touches. But the green touches are most prominent and most potent at the forefront when you first spray the fragrance, but you have to make it through that dry down. If you don't like the opening, try to make it through the opening into the dry down of this, because this is such a unique fragrance. It's very complex, it is very bold, and like I said earlier, it's as if they took Silky Woods, they use Silky Woods as a foundation. They use the vanilla, they use the saffron as a foundation, even the oud as a foundation, and they built on top of it to make something a little bit different, a little bit more interesting, more complex, definitely better performing for sure, and overall richer, even sweeter than the original. So right now it's losing the green touch, it's losing the greenness. Right now, as we're venturing into the mid, we're leaving that opening. It has dried on the skin. I'm getting a sweet, woody vibe with a buttery facet. A little bit of that greenness is still there from the initial opening, and it's changing. It has changed a lot from the opening, and it is still changing. So this is a very interesting fragrance. If you're a niche lover, if you love complex scents, if you love woody scents, if you love bold scents, then you may really enjoy this one over the original. If you found that the original did not perform well at all, if you found it too light, you may want to get your nose on this one. Although it has a very masculine leaning opening, it dries down more and more into a unisex fragrance. And the deep dry down of this is my favorite part. It's my favorite part because it's a deep dry down that has a very nice projection and sillage. Like, you will be able to smell the person walking past you long into that deep dry down. So this is going to perform really well if you wear it all day. I have sprayed this on a robe, and I wore the robe, I did something, I put the robe up, I picked the robe up 3 days later, and the robe was so fragrant. The fragrance was emanating from the robe. My husband said I smelled sweet. And so with that, what I'm saying is that Silky Woods Elixir performs better on the dry down than Silky Woods, the original, in the opening. This one is more potent in the dry down than this one is in just the opening. So in my opinion, they are two different fragrances that share the same DNA. This was used as a foundation for something even greater, and I have had this for maybe 2 to 3 weeks now, and this has macerated beautifully. The vanillic notes are more prominent now, a lot quicker, whereas when I first sprayed this, the opening lasted longer. The greenness, the woodiness, all of that lasted longer. Now I'm getting the vanilla maybe like 20 minutes in, and it is a vanilla that projects. It is a vanilla that is sweet, that is rich, that is dense. So let's look at some of the notes, and then I'm going to sniff my arm again and tell you what I'm smelling. All of the notes are listed all together. So the notes are vanilla, orris, saffron, gaiac wood, Peru balsam, oak moss, chyprea oil or nagarmotha, tolu balsam, ambroxan, oud, fig, clearwood, fig leaf, musk, rose. So lots of notes, but for me, the opening consists of a very green and sort of sappiness. When I hauled this in a recent video, I mentioned that it's as if you picked a fig off of a tree in a very dense and lush forest that was very wet and green, and it was an unripe fig. And so I can see how the Peru balsam would give that unripe effect, that green, sappy, unripe effect. The oak moss would give it more greenness. There's a tolu balsam that gives it a richness, a boldness, sort of rounds it out. And then there's a chyprea oil, which I'm not familiar with, but it says chyprea oil gives off the essence of woods or mosses, earthy, aromatic, or woody. And so what I get from this fragrance is very earthy and aromatic and green in the opening, and then it begins to get woody at the mid and sweet and buttery. And then the deep dry down is very sweet. So while I cannot distinctly detect ambroxan, oud or clearwood or fig leaf or rose. The notes that are consistent with what I'm smelling are the Peru balsam, the oak moss, the gaiac wood, the oud, the chypriol oil, the tolu balsam, the fig, the vanilla, the orris, and the saffron. Those are the notes that I'm picking up when I smell this. This gets sweeter, witty, buttery, a little creamy the longer it sits on the skin. And then in the deep dry down, you lose all of the edge of the greenness and the woodiness. It's like a rich, bold vanilla that kind of puts me in the mind of a vanilla 28, like the richness and the boldness of vanilla 28. So it's not like a soft, cozy type of vanilla. It's like a bold, rich vanilla on the dry down. So right now, maybe like 5 or so, it is still woody, slightly green, and very sweet. When I refer to the deep dry down, I'm referring to when this fragrance has reached its final stage of transition. So it's transitioned through the top, the mid, and it's sitting at the base and it's stopped transitioning. That's what I'm referring to when I say deep dry down. So on the deep dry down, when it has reached those base notes, it is like a rich, bold vanilla that has a woody facet, a woody undertone. It's a little bit creamy and you can detect that saffron still. So for me, it's like a saffron infused vanilla pudding with a woody undertone at the base or the deep dry down of this. So yeah, y'all, those are my thoughts on these two fragrances. I think they are two different fragrances. I think if you don't like a very masculine leaning fragrance through any stage, the opening, mid, or the base, then you probably will not enjoy this one. But if you're an open-minded niche fragrance lover, you are a connoisseur, you love a good complex fragrance, you love bold fragrances, you enjoy witty fragrances, maybe not so much green notes, but you love a good witty fragrance, then you might really enjoy this one after the opening. Because for me, after the opening, I truly enjoy this fragrance and I absolutely love the dry down of this. The opening doesn't match my scent profile. For me, I tend to enjoy a more feminine fragrance. I love very feminine, girly type scents. So this is stepping out for me. This is different. And the only reason I picked this up, like I mentioned in my haul video, is because I really wanted to try this one. This was the one that I had my eye on, and then I saw that they had a flanker. And for me, when there's a flanker, when there's an updated version of something, which is what I thought this was going to be, an updated version, I tend to go for the updated version because I'm like, why get the original when I can get the new and improved and slightly different version? Well, I was wrong about this. These are two different scents. They share the same DNA, but this is like the foundation of the house and this is the entirety of the house. So all of the levels, all of the rooms, all that good stuff. And for that reason, I think they are very different. I think this one is much more feminine leaning as a unisex scent, but this one opens up very masculine leaning and dries down to a more unisex scent that is still a little masculine leaning in my opinion. I think if I were to classify this fragrance as anything, it would be more masculine leaning because the deep dry down, when you get to those base notes, that's when you start to get more unisex. And so I feel like if the top is more masculine leaning, the mid is more masculine leaning, and you don't get truly unisex until the dry down, then honestly, this is just a more masculine leaning scent. But the dry down happens very quickly and it is something beautiful. It is something gorgeous. As I mentioned in my previous video, this smells like what I imagine gold would smell like. Very lush, very luxe, very velvety, very beautiful. And this is sweeter. Silky Woods Elixir is so much sweeter than Silky Woods. And you really pick up on that in the mid and in the dry down. That's when you pick up on just how much sweeter this version is than this one. So yeah, y'all. I forgot to mention that Silky Woods Elixir is best suited for colder months. So the winter time, late fall, you can even wear this at night in the springtime. I definitely would not pull for this in the summer. It is way too heavy. It's not cloying or anything like that. It's just a really dense and heavy scent. And so because of that, it's going to be beautiful on those super cold days, which I've worn it on super cold days. And this isn't the loudest projecting fragrance, but it projects beautifully and it stays. It is so long lasting. It is eternal in my opinion. So yeah, this is best worn winter time, late fall, date nights, late nights. That's what I would say. That wraps up my comparison video of Silky Woods and Silky Woods Elixir, those are my thoughts on the two fragrances, how they are alike and how they are different, and I hope this video was helpful to you. If this video was, then don't forget to give it a thumbs up on your way out. That helps other people who are looking for this comparison video to find it, and it also helps people find my channel and helps my channel grow. So thank you in advance for clicking that like button. And also, if you're here, I want to know you're here. So even if you don't have anything to say, just go ahead and drop an emoji of some sort in the comment section so that I know you are here. So before I leave this video today, I want to remind you that if you want to achieve more and if you want to be more productive in 2024, then consistency is key. I'm sure you all have heard it's not about the destination, but it's more about the journey. And I really agree with that sentiment. The journey is where you build your muscle. And so consistency is important to build muscle. And consistency is something that gets you started well before there are any rewards attached to what it is you want to achieve, and also what keeps you going long after the rewards start coming in and you start to grow weary and tired. So consistency is so important. The journey is so important. And I really want you to leave this video sort of reflecting on that. Where can I be more consistent this year? What do I need to focus on? What do I need to cut out in order to help me remain disciplined and consistent? I know for me exactly what those things are. I've been reflecting on them, and I encourage you to do the same. Thank you so much for watching this video. I will see you in the next one very soon. Bye.